So we're here with Peter Damore, who's a real estate attorney in town. Peter, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good. So first question, obvious. How'd you come up with Damore Law as the name?
I got that name from my dad, and I've had it ever since. So.
By the way, are those pens free?
Yes, actually, we hand those out to our clients.
All of them?
Sure.
Like, there's no limit to how many you can take?
I think the most that anyone has taken is 2.
Right, like if I wanted like all of them?
All of them?
Yeah. I'll leave one in case.
Leave one just in case we need it for the next closing.
The rest I'm just going to keep.
People usually take one, I think that'll be fine.
Or people can leave one and take the rest. I mean, it's really how you look at it.
Glass half full.
I'm just happy to have a glass.
Yeah, well now you have a pocket full of pens as well.
We have a lot of first-time buyers that we work with, and a lot of them ask, what does the real estate attorney do in the transaction?
What we do, I mean, the most important thing we do is we protect our clients. We're always reviewing the paperwork, advising the clients, educating them. So not only are we reviewing the paperwork to make sure they're protected, but we want them to understand what they're buying, understand what they're getting into. We want them to know what to expect on the day of closing. We want to make sure that process goes smoothly, start to finish. We want to make the whole process as enjoyable as possible for them with the least amount of stress.
Yeah, because it's a very stressful process, especially for first-timers. I think even if they're not first-timers, it can get very stressful, emotions are high.
If you set expectations early, your clients understand the whole process, the happier they are on the day of closing.
All these books, do you have these on a Nook?
No, the books are for show.
So sometimes people say, oh, the bank has an attorney, so it's confusing because I think some people just assume that that's their attorney as well, whether they're a buyer or a seller. So can you elaborate on that a little bit? I think people get confused by that.
Sure. So if the buyer has an attorney and then the other party's unrepresented, they're at a huge disadvantage, because that attorney is going to review all the paperwork for the buyer and only represents that buyer's interest. Now the seller's unrepresented and they don't know the law. They're not experts. A buyer and a seller enter into a sale or a purchase a few times in their life. Attorneys do this every day.
A lot of my clients ask me, do I need a homestead and what does it do?
Homestead protects you if you're sued for any reason, up to $500,000. So if you declare that homestead, it protects you the rest of your life as long as you live in that property.
So a one-time document gives you $500,000.
$500,000 in protection.
So that's kind of a no-brainer.
Absolutely.
And then another question I get all the time is, should I spend the money on title insurance for myself?
So the owner's policy, which is a one-time fee, you pay it at the closing, it protects you against any title issues that come up after closing, as long as you own the property. So the simple answer to that question again is yes. It just makes sense.
Has anybody ever Facebook Lived a closing or Instagram Lived a closing, or have they recorded it and sent it to family or friends?
No.
I bet it will. Just call me Nostradamus. Besides coming in here and getting a free pen as part of my closing, which makes me very ecstatic, what else do you do to make people feel like it's a very memorable experience for them?
Okay, well, hopefully they've had a great experience all the way through the closing and in the process. And a lot of times we have first-time home buyers, second-time home buyers, and we want them to remember it. After the closing, we will take their picture and print it here in our office. And we will provide them a copy of that picture with the frame that they get to take with them so that they'll always remember it. We want them to remember this as something that's a great experience, something amazing that they'll always remember. And I think our clients have been very happy about that, and we enjoy doing it.
If I was to make an offer on a tiny house and it got accepted, would you be able to do the closing on something like that?
If you're going to buy a tiny house, I'd want you to make sure that you make a tiny offer.
I already own a tiny property next to it. We'll call this property A. If we could review the deeds for them, is that something that you could do to make sure that the space isn't too big?
That's something we could do.
I actually have one of the deeds right here. If you could review that for me. You know, I want to know if this is feasible, this whole situation.
Paul, I have some bad news.
What's that?
This is a deed from a board game.
No, I mean, I have Boardwalk too. I own that right here.
Yeah, that's Monopoly.
No, these are Susan gave me these earlier today. She's like, make sure you bring these to Peter.
Did you pay her for these?
People come in, they sign paperwork. Then what happens? You hand them the keys, and then what does the buyer do? Do they just throw money at the table? Like give it to the seller? Hey, here you go.
That's one way to do it. Usually they bring a check or they'll wire the funds into our account. I don't see any problem with having a money gun.
Well, it's safe too though, because nobody's getting tased or shot, so we don't have to worry about any of that
it kind of makes it more exciting for the seller. Why just take a check when you can pick up money from all over the table and the floor.
I spent $100,000 on 2 greenhouses.
Did you?
Now
You're
I
out
have
of money.
Great.